Okay, so just warning any listeners listening right now that this is going to be full of spoilers. Maybe. Well, we're going to be speaking about the ending, right? So.
Yeah.
I imagine.
Yeah, well, it's going to be hard to avoid, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much a big part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it changed actually the rest of the game for me.
The rest of the game, meaning your second playthrough?
Yeah, I saw it in a completely different light after actually beating the game.
So I guess I have to admit I didn't do that. I didn't play it a second time. Once I finished it, I wasn't really interested in doing it again. I'm not sure why. For me, it was more of like a one-time thing. Like my enjoyment came from like seeing the new environments for the first time.
Yeah.
Like exploring all the different, nooks and crannies and the story elements. So once I knew the ending and like once I'd seen through the whole game, I didn't really see a purpose of going through the whole game. What exactly did you gain something from that?
Yeah, I mean, like, we might as well dive straight into these spoilers now, mightn't we? After seeing the, everything about how time works in the game, and just like the parallel universes, how you can be, completely affecting different timelines, and then the Letusas as well in particular, and their role in the game. Say for instance when you first come in to the dock, and she says he doesn't row.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that just makes so much more sense afterwards, and there's just many little pieces that come together like that.
Well, I knew right away that like when you first start off the game and they're rowing you, and like everything they're saying, you could tell right away is not something you're gonna understand the first time. So like, as soon as it was over, that was like the first thing that went on my mind. Like, okay, let me piece back. Like, what exactly do they mean to say then?
Yeah, there definitely was a lot to see. Like, going back from that first experience. Another one of the things that I noticed quite interestingly as well is, do you remember when you first entered the world of the original Bioshock? You had this, you come through in the bathysphere, you see like the city and then a whale coming in from the right.
Yeah.
I noticed that actual scene was replicated in the beginning of Infinite on the second playthrough, and that really hammers home that feel of a parallel universe.
That was really cool. That I was actually going to mention. That was one of my best parts of the entire game.
Yeah.
That little cameo, that was so cool. Like I love that. It's like, oh come on, that's amazing. Seeing Rapture again. The thing is that it looked a little bit better actually.
Yeah, it did. I mean, obviously they've had some time to improve the effects as well. Yeah.
They should have actually had you playing a little bit through Rapture. That would have been fun.
Well, they're currently talking about downloadable content, giving little hints here and there, and
that would be incredible.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that would be the perfect piece of downloadable content for the game.
Yeah, it would.
They're talking about taking Elizabeth out though, which I don't know. I'm not so sure how that would work, but yeah, I guess it's hard to interfere with the story they've written already. So
yeah, I wouldn't like that if they took it. It would be fun if you could like play even through Rapture with Elizabeth.
Yeah,
even through the original game.
Yeah, I'd go for that.
That'd be fun. So what did you think overall of the game? Like, let's go through the points. What was your general take on what was amazing to you? What was anything not so good to you about the game?
Well, to be honest, one of the things that really got me was the combat. It was.
Did like or you didn't like?
I'm kind of on the fence. There was things I did like and things I didn't like as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was very different to some of the older Bioshocks combat-wise, because there was less use of the stealth approach.
Yeah.
However, I did like that once you actually got into a fight on there, it would get really hectic. I mean, sometimes you couldn't see what was going on. You was running just to, gain your bearings again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, things can get really hectic.
Yeah. Like fighting the handyman. And that's insane.
Yeah. And also because it's not just like straightforward shooting, it's also like you'll be like jumping onto skylines, jumping off, doing your different using the, what are they called again?
Oh, they're not called plasmids in this,
Not
are they?
plasmids, right? I always call them plasmids, but what's the real name again?
I can't think of the name on this.
Ah.
Typical.
For me, it's just they're plasmids. You know, they'll always be plasmids.
The renamed version of plasmids.
Renamed plasmids. Those were pretty fun. Which one did you use? I felt a little bit like there were a lot of them, and basically everyone just chooses one or two that they really like and just sticks to that, as opposed to like using them in different scenarios.
I think for me, it was probably bucking Bronco. That was my main.
Yeah, my main was bucking Bronco also.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of overpowered compared to some of the others as well, I think.
Yeah, it pretty much put them out of commission.
Yeah.
For a while. But yeah, it got very hectic. But otherwise, just the shooting itself wasn't so spectacular. It was regular, no? It was enjoyable, but it's not the same comparison to the art of the game or the storyline.
No. And another one of the areas that I actually think it fell short of the original was the weapons didn't feel so hefty. They didn't feel like they had as much impact, whereas in Bioshock, the original, these weapons felt powerful, you know? They, like, even the shotgun alone had this real bang to it, this real kickback. And yeah, some of that's been removed now, I think.
Yeah, at the beginning of the game, like the shotgun, these things, they seem to like do a one-hit kill pretty much, so it felt stronger. But as you went on, it got much less. You know, by the end of the game, like you had to use a ton of ammo to kill anything.
Yeah, I mean, that actually kind of killed the ending for me. That was something I wanted to talk about, actually, was that final fight scene. That seemed like...
Are you talking about the one that lasts for a really long time?
Yeah, yeah.
With the songbird?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's one of my worst areas of the entire game, actually. It was actually it was the only area that was hard for me. The rest of the game I found pretty easy, and then suddenly I felt like that, when you go onto his ship, even before you get up to that part, just so you're like going up to a higher level and a higher level and a higher level, and then you finally get taken to there. It was almost like they just decided to dump a ton of combat on you.
Yeah, it was like a cop-out, wasn't it? Like, really cheap game design, actually.
Yeah, I didn't like that. And then you go in and you kill, what's his name? I'm forgetting all the names right now. It's too late at night. What's his name? Prophet.
Oh, the Prophet, yeah.
What's his name again? Shepard? No.
His name's Booker DeWitt as well, isn't it?
Well, he is Booker, yeah.
Yeah.
But what did they call him?
I didn't actually catch the name they called him by in there. I always just saw him as the Prophet, to be honest.
Right, the Prophet. I'm just checking over here again. Comstock.
That's the one, Comstock. I kept hearing that name in the game and thinking that sounds more like an organization, you know?
Right. Oh, you know what else reminds me of? You know those little spots throughout the game that you would like look into to those like binocular type of things?
Oh yeah.
What did you think of those? Because I always love story things, like additional story things, but I happen to have found those a little bit boring. Like I was like, oh boy, can they just show this to me in the actual scene? I don't want to like stare through my 100th one.
Yeah, that was kind of tedious, to be honest, and
yeah, a lot of people liked it though.
I kind of preferred just collecting the audio diaries again. Yeah. It was something you could take around with you and listen to while you're actually still playing the game.
Yeah, me too. The voxophones.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
still referring to them as the same names.
Yeah, I know. It's very hard to change. But that's what's funny about the game is that I found like there was a lot of pacing issues in the game. Like sometimes you would be like, you get to a new room, and like every 3 steps you took, you would have to be searching for more ammo.
Yeah.
So at a certain point in the game, I liked it, but as it went on, like it got a little bit tedious for me.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the combat was what made it tedious for me. I found towards the end I was just wishing there was a way to actually hit a skip button and go to the story.
Next story scene. I know that, because I guess in a way the game has like a whole bunch of different parts to it, and they're not equally as good as each other.
No, I think they had a big gap in the parity there actually between the story and the gameplay, and that's kind of what sort of made that tediousness to the end of it. It's just the way the story is actually really amazingly crafted, and they had a hard job trying to make the gameplay live up to that.
Yeah, very hard. And the truth is, I don't think that they did. Like, I would give the gameplay like the most a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the story, I would give like a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. And even then, I'd say a 9 out of 10 for the gameplay is perhaps a little generous.
Yeah, it's a little generous. I said, yeah. For me, it's the most I would give is 9 out of 10. Probably I would give it 8.5.
Yeah.
To be very often bordered on 8 out of 10.
Yeah, there's certainly moments where it gets a bit bizarre. I mean, it's one of the moments where you have to sneak through 4 rooms to avoid getting caught. But yeah, that just kind of came out of nowhere. It seemed like it was randomly dropped in for no reason.
Right. So there were definitely moments where I really enjoyed the combat also. I think more in the beginning of the game, where like you could just cruise through the combat and get up to the next story scene or keep on exploring, as opposed to later on, like you had to actually spend time on the combat, and it's like, okay, move to in the last city that you were in, leading up to getting to Comstock's house. Like you went through each part of the city, and each new part had like a whole different battle to it, and it kind of just felt tedious. Like, okay, move on to the next part. Here we go again.
Yeah, and the environments kind of became a bit more closed in towards the end as well, and I think that took away some of the fun of using the rail system, didn't it? You can't really use it as much. A lot of the time you're backed into a corner. And then instead you're more relying on calling upon Elizabeth's power of her choosing what you want her to give you, to call into the fight. And just you had sky hooks, but no sky lines. So yeah, they kind of limited the vertical gameplay towards the end of it, which I thought was silly because that was supposed to be a huge focus of it.
Yeah, I know. What they should have had like grand sweeping skyline battles,
Yeah.
That might have made it feel more epic as opposed to like just grinding it out near the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably wanted to do more than they could in a sense as well. Because I've noticed the last E3 demo we were shown before the release, it looked absolutely fantastic. We had a really large environment. But in the final product, what we saw in that E3 demo actually consists of around 4 or 5 different levels of the main game.
Mm-hmm. The skyline also was amazing. It was like a roller coaster. Like it was actually like being on a roller coaster in a game.
Yeah, it took me a long time to adjust to actually.
Oh really?
Yeah, I couldn't actually. At first, when I was getting on there, I was trying to go around nice and fast, and yeah, that just didn't work out. Moving around so fast, I had no idea where I was in the map anymore.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. Sometimes I'd have to take like 2 or 3 spins around in the actual skyline till I got my bearings of like. But I felt that was part of the fun. It was when it would throw you for a loop. Like, whoa, what is going on? There's so much happening here.
Yeah, and another thing that I think they've done really well in some areas was there were some places where the skylines would actually intertwine quite often, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and you could hop from one to the other.
Yeah, you could create some really, really fun runs across that.
Mm-hmm. Then there's also the sky dives. What is it called when you do an attack from the skyline?
Oh yeah.
Those are fun.
Yeah, they give you a good little sneak attack.
Yeah, right. And the enemy lifts up his hands. Like if you pay attention to how they do it, it's actually done very well because the enemy lifts up his hands as if like he's like terrified you're gonna slam into him, and then it doesn't actually make an explosion noise. They do like a noise on the piano they like slam down on the piano. That's the sound effect. It's like like a very jarring noise. So it's actually a very cool effect the way it's pulled off.
Yeah, I think they've done a few clever things like that in the game actually. I noticed to go back to the bucking bronchoplasmid as well, and the piano note that you mentioned there when you actually strike somebody from the skyline.
Yeah.
There was a lot of interesting audio design that maybe you wouldn't get in most other games going on, and especially since the gameplay was hectic, you'd be hearing these triggered every 5 or 6 seconds, so it was interesting audio-wise as well, I think.
Right, yeah. What's funny is that most people talk about the storyline as being the best part of the game, and the truth is that I didn't find that the storyline was the best. I found that it was more the presentation of the world was what I liked the best. If as you creeped forward, you explored new areas. So then, like, they had a very strong, lighting was a very big influence in the game. Same as the original Bioshock. Like, some scenes were like very bright, but like you would see like people bleeding and violence, you know. So like it would be kind of like you felt like it was artificially cheery, which was really good because it was like, okay, something's messed up in this world. They feel so positive about themselves, but it's really messed up. And then other areas would be like very dark, and just like the whole exploration of the world was very fascinating. And the characters themselves also, like the people, the places that you would pass, new locations that you would come across, and new characters you would come across. All of that to me felt like it always like made you fascinated to explore the world. That's what I liked about it best.
Yeah, and I think the way they handled the whole game with Elizabeth as well really made the exploration pay off, because instead of just looking around and watching your AI partner stand around the corner looking stupid, you know, she reacted like she was aware that you were just busy searching for something, and sometimes she may bug you here and there during that as well, you know?
Right. Yeah. So I like the characters. You know when you first meet up with Elizabeth in her tower?
Oh yeah.
Like that kind of a moment, the story moments, like where they push the narrative further in the actual gameplay.
Yeah.
Those were my favorite parts of the game. Like, there were certain moments where it's like, wow, this is really cool to be experiencing it. Like, you could tell how video games are different than movies because you're actually there in this really fantastical type of scenario, and you get to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So that was like very, very cool to me.
There is one other thing that started around that area that I was absolutely really looking forward to was when Songbird first showed up.
Oh yeah.
That was an absolutely fantastic moment, especially the whole scene jumping off onto the skyline and everything that ensued afterwards, you know?
Yeah.
But I was kind of expecting to see more of the Songbird, because I thought he was like the big daddies of Bioshock, and
yeah, exactly the same feeling.
Yeah, it's a different presence, isn't it? He doesn't play this actual role that you can interfere with in the game at all.
Yeah, they needed more Songbird in the game. I think like if it was you, Elizabeth, and Songbird as getting equal roles in the game, like equal focus, I think the game would have been like even better.
Yeah.
He's such an amazing presence. He's scary, and at the same time, like, I don't know, he's intimidating, and then he becomes on your side in the end. But
he's a very mysterious character as well, isn't it? It makes you question more about the origin of the Songbird. I'm sure it explains it in the Vox phones, but I haven't actually collected all of them, I will admit, so I've probably missed that bit. But I felt like maybe that could have actually been a major focal point of the game's story as well.
Yeah, Songbird, and plus his relationship with Elizabeth, like how they're tied to each other.
Yeah, but it's only explained in the in the subtext in the Vox phones, isn't it? It's something they really should have brought to the forefront.
Yeah, I agree with that. So everyone praises the storyline. I think there was two parts of the storyline that I didn't like. first of all, that the whole religious aspect of it, I felt like it was a little bit phony, because in the first Bioshock, it was like it was basically a criticism of objectivism and Ayn Rand. So like, if anyone who read the books of Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, so I've seen some like the criticisms of it and how people say like, if you would, like, it all seems very reasonable and everything, but if you would actually put that into someone's real life, they could, it could turn into what you see in Rapture. It's just not practical. It's very intellectual, but not actually like based in experience in life. So Rapture was basically like, you got to see this whole very philosophical way of thinking. What would happen if you followed that through to the logical endpoint, like Rapture would come about. So that to me, it was like a very deep type of a storyline, as opposed to over here, it was more like they threw in like everything that they could, like anti-Christianity, racism. We can leave that in.
Sorry about that.
I think we can leave that in. There's like racism. Like, okay, this is not the first time we've ever heard about racism,
Yeah.
Or America, like getting too into your country, and religion, like following a prophet blindly until you end up killing people. These are all like common themes that we've seen in hundreds of movies before, so it's not like really making that much of a political statement. I just didn't feel that part was so deep. It was like, it's like, okay, we have to pick some kind of a subtext to stick into the game. Okay, let's just stick in racism, religion, extreme religion, and getting too into Americana, as opposed to like the end part of the game, where the end of the story, where that was like a whole inception, like, let's go deeper, and everything all comes together. That was like very brilliant. So again, I didn't feel like it really matched the two things,
Yeah, it's definitely again another divide in quality there.
Right. There's a lot of disparity in the game.
Yeah.
It has such brilliance, but what?
That's actually the perfect way to explain that, actually. I mean, it is a great game.
Yeah, a brilliant game with disparity.
Yeah. it just knocks that 0.5 off it, if you know what I mean.
Right. But the thing is that it's also such a groundbreaking game in a certain type of way that I think we're all willing to forgive it for, whenever you try something new and innovative, so you can't always get it. You can't be perfect on your first try.
No.
And Ken Levine knew that he was trying to go for something really amazing, so he tried his best to make it as good as possible. They worked really hard on it, but it's impossible on your first try to, so I don't think there's anything you could have done about it.
I think it's also important to remember that, with the original Bioshock, he'd been pitching the game for many, many years, with no success. I think it was something like 6 or 7 years he'd been pitching it. And the story had changed many times during that, so he probably had actually more time to craft the world of the original Bioshock than he did with Infinite. So I think what they've managed to cram in that amount of time is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it definitely is. There's if you want to explore the lore and the story, there's a ton there. Have you seen that thread on NeoGAF?
Which one?
There's one that goes into the entire thing, explaining everything. It was like an incredible thread.
I don't think I have, but it sounds like I'm going to be soon.
You could then you realize how little you really understood in the game as they go they take every single voxophone and all the different theories of how to understand everything, so you get the full picture of the game.
Yeah, I think I'd expect them to be able to deliver pretty heavily on that as well, because I remember I made quite a task of getting every single audio diary in the first game, and there was a lot of revelations to be had in there. There was so much story hidden between the lines.
Right. Ken Levine really, he does a great job. Did you play System Shock 2?
I haven't actually, but I've heard that I really should.
Yeah, it was incredible. I don't know how I would feel about it now, but when I was a teenager and I played it, I was really taken aback by it. Like it was really scary. Like they did such a good job in the atmosphere. And I don't think I ever felt that again until I played the first few seconds of Bioshock. I was like, okay, that's the same feeling I just felt when I played System Shock 2.
Yeah, I think Ken Levine definitely strives towards atmosphere as a goal, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really pick up that vibe that he's trying to throw you into the world head first. And I appreciate that a lot, because I like when I can find a game that I can immerse myself in, and Bioshock is one you can really dig into.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was waiting for Bioshock Infinite it was like my most anticipated game for a full year, so I was happy when it delivered, because I felt like, okay, if I have so much hype, this is not going to deliver, you know.
I've been waiting for this game for so long that when it actually came out, I drove to the store at midnight to go get it.
Yeah. The truth is that the last time I ever did such a thing was Metroid Prime. I remember like biking home actually when I was a teenager with Metroid Prime. I was like so giddy to run home to my GameCube, throw the disc in, and start playing. And that lived up to my expectations. But yeah, there's certain games like that the atmosphere is going to be incredible, and those games really, I don't know, for me it seems also for you, that's like one of the biggest exciting points of video games in general.
Yeah, I'd definitely choose that over just a typical shooter that happens to have good mechanics. Not naming anything.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Although a lot of people liked the original Call of Duty because they felt like they were really holding a gun in war, you know? So.
And I have to say, like, going back to Call of Duty 2, story used to actually be good.
Yeah, it's true. I think that with repetition it got worse.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can beat a dead horse, isn't there?
Yeah. I guess in the podcast we'll probably talk about Call of Duty Ghost.
Yeah, I reckon that will probably be a focus, if they do decide to release a trailer that shows more than people wearing masks.
Masks, yeah.
Yeah.
You saw that also on Reddit?
Yeah, that didn't take long, did it?
Yeah, I know. Okay, so that's my general opinion on Bioshock. I was actually gonna write up a review. I never got a chance to do it. I was gonna give it a 9.5.
I was thinking of doing the same and thinking around the same score, but there's just been so many games coming out recently, hasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to catch up. It's like Blood Dragon. I've only just started that up, and I'm pretty sure that'll be keeping me busy for the next 40 hours or so. Still haven't beat Dark Souls.
Souls. I was gonna say that's where I'm stuck right now.
How far are you now then?
I actually didn't play last night, so I'm up to the same point in Blighttown. That's where I last left off. What actually happened was that I lit a fire, what's it called, fireplace?
Yeah.
A bonfire.
Oh yeah.
So I lit it, and I didn't want to sit there because I didn't want to wake up the enemies again. So and I thought that was good enough to create it as a restore point when you die. I didn't realize that you actually have to sit by the bonfire to make it become a restore point.
Yeah, that's caught me out a few times as well. So
in Blighttown I fell off a ledge, and then it brought me back to the previous bonfire. I was like, oh man, I don't have patience right now. I have to wait a few days until I get the patience to fight all those enemies again.
That's what happens with me for Dark Souls. I managed to go pretty much from the beginning of Anor Londo to the end in one run without catching a single bonfire, and yeah, I don't feel like playing it for at least a week after that.
Oh, you got out? You died?
I managed to find one of the hardest bosses in the game and just got torn to bits.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened with Dark Souls. Is that it's an incredible game until you get to some part that seems really hard, and then you don't want to do it again.
Yeah, totally. Or you lose something like 70,000 souls, and it's like, oh, I'm not up for that.
Yeah, like forget it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm still gonna try and finish it, but I need to give myself a breather.
Yeah, it's one of those games where you need to take a lot of breaks.
Yeah, yeah. I like to on a break. Oh, did you see that? That thing also on Reddit, the Dark Souls custom controller.
No, actually.
Oh, that was funny. They showed custom Dark Souls controller, and then you see a picture of like a broken Xbox controller.
Oh,
Xbox 360
wait.
controller.
Yeah, I think I did see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's any game that could actually make me smash another controller now that the price has actually increased so much than what it used to be,